Hello, John O'Flaherty, the B3 burner, and what I have for you today is a continuation of where we left off from March 31st, 2018 regarding the LTD paint project. We're going to continue through the month of April 7th to April 24th to be exact, take you through everything that we did with the trunk and the engine area right before we were ready to go to cool April nights the end of the month, so stand by. Alright, John O'Flaherty with you a week later, and let's see what I've done with the sanding on the trunk. Alright, so remember the lip of the trunk was all rusted before? I did the best I could with brushes and sandpaper and sanded down to bare metal. And you can see where it looks better than it did before. Can't quite get the manual focus to do what I wanted to do, but this is pretty good. It's better than it was. This is now all silver metal. You see the reflection now? This used to be all brown rust. Can't get to the rust on the inside. That's that's not going to change much. But remember all the rust around these holes? They're gone. I also used the soft pad to take the shine off this paint and bring it down to dull, so I can paint it a little bit more easily, and the new coat of black paint will stick. Here, a little bit of brown, but again, more bare metal as well. Yeah, came out fine. I took off the tag over here because what I want to do is preserve it. I want to do the primer and the new paint and then put the new tag back over. Now what I'll probably do is prime in some spaces where it needs it, like where I shaved down or sanded down bare metal, but the rest of the trunk that's in decent enough shape, I will just paint directly over with black gloss paint. Oh, and by the way, I decided to get industrious on one other thing while I'm at it. We're working on the trunk, we're working on the grill still, and now it's time to get to the air filter and the items that need to be Ford glue. Look at this. I don't know why I had forgotten about this, but taking care of it. I had to get more engine enamel. Was missing some, so we're gonna get that. And let's look at the rest of the car. I also want to check this out. Paint's coming off the air intake extender. The light on this appears to be okay. I'm not too concerned about this, but the valve covers, they're decent. They're not falling apart or getting rusted or anything, but the whole air filter top and extension that's supposed to be painted Ford blue, we could do better. And what does that say? Oh, that's the original tag on here. I love keeping the original tags on the engine. The decals really helps bring about the stock look. Fresh new repaint with the new dark Ford engine paint. Now this is the color I was looking for. Rich, glossy. Oh man, that looks like $1 million and some change. I missed this first time around, but this is the picture of the air filter cover, the base of the air filter cover painted upside down, and it came out as good as the top side. Here's a screen grab of the trunk lid before it got sanded, I think. And this is a good look at the sanding around the holes, close-up view completed. And as we move into April 8th, we only have pictures, 5 of them, no video, so this should be fairly quick. You can see I've completed the spray painting of the air filter and the snorkel upside down. That's the air filter cover right side up
with the tape over the engine decal. Then I peeled the tape off the engine decal, and you can see the Ford 392 barrel insignia. Very important if you want to make it look stock. And then of course the emissions control tag that I wanted to keep on there to make sure that it preserved its stock look. And April 10th was the day to tape down the protective coating and plastic that we were using to protect the sides, the fenders, and the various parts of the car we didn't want painted, while we were painting both the front of the car and the trunk, kind of back and forth and all around at the same time, really trying to make up time before we go to Reading. Reading at the end of that month, and we only had about 2 weeks to go. So we had to get cooking. In order to help me move a little bit faster, my girlfriend Shelley partook in some of this, or else it would have never gotten done in time. So let's take you through these and have a look. You can see the right front quarter panel is taped down, as well as the right rear. Just take you through some of this, and I'll point out the areas that have been painted already. It looks like this part here and all around here was the first to get painted before everything else. Another view of the back of the car, the left front corner with the mirror protected. We don't want that getting hit. Saran wrap over the left rear. The tires protected along with the fender. This got painted. You can see this is the blue that hasn't been hit yet, but all along the area between the trunk deck lid and the taillight runner has been painted. A closer look at the trunk channel on the passenger side. The top, trunk channel on the driver's side in the rear. Overall above view. Now we move to the front, the inside of the hood, and the hood hinges have been painted. Eventually we'll get the wheel wells as well. That's on the driver. This picture's on the driver's side. Another view, a little clearer and further back. That's the passenger side. The edge has been gotten. Edge by the battery. There you go, the hood hinge. And it's looking to come along pretty good.
Okay, so I'm looking at the engine painting, and I have some thoughts about where we stand. We're coming along. Things are looking much better. All the parts that were painted light blue right along the edge, Shelley already got to. Thank you to her. That's not blue, that's dirt. And over on the driver's side as well. All looking very good. Now I'm looking at other parts, like the driver's side wheel well and the passenger side wheel well. That dust needs to be, or that rust I mean, needs to be honed down a little bit more with sandpaper, cleaned up before we paint. We're going to paint with a brush. I'm also looking at how good I did with the air filter cover, and realizing that this piece now sticks out like a sore thumb as being undone. And I'm thinking to myself, well, gosh darn it, that's a shame. Do I really need to paint that? At this point, I wish I had a brush and a can of Ford dark blue to paint with a brush, but all I have is spray paint. Best I can do. Danger here is overspray. Don't want to hit the radiator hose, don't want to hit any components that aren't supposed to have paint on them, don't want to hit my ignition wires. As we look around at various parts that I wish I could get to, the one glaring thing is kind of hard to get to some of these where they're at. Ideally, what you want to do is take every one of the components you want to paint apart from the engine, lay them out on newspaper on the ground, and spray them independently, then put them all back in the car. At the end of the day, though, I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. It's just too difficult. I wouldn't really know how to do that. Plus, if I took them apart, I probably would never get them back in right. So what I have to do is go for broke, reach the things I can with the brush, try to avoid wires and cables and lift them up as best I can. If they lay down in a little bit of paint and touch up against it and dry like that, so be it. I can probably spray paint this Ford blue, but spray painting the valve covers is probably going to be difficult because I'm just going to have to work around too many cables and wires, and there's too many things that I'm going to wind up hitting that I don't want to, and there's too much grease down here that I'd need to clean up that I can't reach, and I won't get entirely clean anyway. And if you can't get it spotless clean with all the grease off, paint's not going to stick to it. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your paint, and you're not going to get a good outcome, and you may as well just leave it alone and approach it later on if you think about it and hit it then. As far as the front goes, I'm thinking this piece here could stand to be done so long as I don't hit the rubber cap, so long as I don't hit any of the rubber guards. Just get the metal here, the metal here. Am I gonna hit the radiator, the top of the radiator? It gets awfully hot there. I just don't know. I need to think about it. And then this metal extension here and over to here would all be good things that would be nice to reach. But again, I have to think about it.
Remember when I said everything is caught up in the details of preparation, taping things off, and not the actual painting? Well, this is the exhaust emissions control sticker that's on the valve cover, the side of it on the passenger side. Right in the corner here, where I'm pointing, is an ignition wire. That might be another one too. Not sure. Too bad the tag is scratched up, but we want to save it and preserve it nonetheless. So the next picture is a before painting. We've put a bag over the carburetor. We've covered up this part, whatever that is. Distributor cap, probably. The oil filler entrance. This over here, the radiator, upper radiator hose, and then each individual ignition wire got covered. And right here is that tag that I had previously shown. This tag here is this over here, and this is before painting. Note the time, 3:32 p.m. And the next one, 8 minutes later at 3:40, you can see that we've finished spray painting, and this has been painted, the snorkel extender for the air filter, and the valve cover gasket. And this right over here, and you can see where paint landed on the taped up ignition wires. That's why we taped them up, to make sure that nothing happens to them.
So a few hours after the fact, we've gotten both the right hand and left hand sides of the engine done. Let's take a real close look in here. We got the stack running from the air filter extension back down into the engine. That was nice to get. There's the valve cover. Yeah, that looks real nice, real nice. Okay, I probably could have gotten that screw a little bit better, but yeah, it's dirty. So all the paint on it in the world wouldn't have done me any good. But that came out really, really nice, you know that? I'm impressed. I guess the carburetor kind of got Just trying to protect the carburetor and the distributor cap. And this is the left side. Yeah, this came out really good. Pretty darn good. Can't complain too much, considering I've never painted valve covers before. Yeah, not bad. This is a little rough, only because it's greasy. It had grit and oil on it, and I could only clean it so well. But not bad. Not bad at all. I think I'll be surprisingly pleased with the result when I get all the tape off. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell right now because we got it all covered up. I covered all the parts I didn't want hit. But when we take it all apart, it's going to be cool. It's going to be hitting. And then we got things like the top of the radiator that I should probably get. But with the 500 degree paint, then the canister for the vacuum for the headlamps. Sand down that rust a little bit more for the humps, the inside of the wheel wells. Now that's really rusty. Boy, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I don't want to paint this. I want to leave that natural, only because those are joints and pinions and things that bend and pivot, and I don't want paint on that. And then on the right hand side, same thing, being very careful to avoid the starter assembly. That could probably use some paint. It got missed, but that's all right. You know, you miss it the first time, get it the second time, right? So, I mean, there's a few things that need to be gotten a little bit better, but you know, other than that, this tray here, yeah, up along this edge, in front of the radiator, yeah, we'll get that. Then the rest is the trunk, and then we're done.
And the middle of the month is upon us at this point, and it looks like I only have 2 pictures here. In this one I'm highlighting the top of the radiator, which I'm going to paint. And then this is on the passenger side. This is the nut that holds the rubber bumper that the hood closes upon. I removed the rubber bumper, and it's the only piece that has yet to still be painted. I paint that and put the rubber bumper back on. Either that, or I removed the bumper so that I could get this here without it being obstructed, and I'll put it back without this being painted. But it would make no sense that I wouldn't paint that, so I probably did.
All right, here we go. Pretty happy with things and the way they've come out. I wish it got a little brighter over here, but you can see that the Shelly helped me out with this one. Painted the passenger side wheel well, looking good. Now matches the rest of the paint. Very nice. The driver's side, yeah, we gotta get this a little better, right? And we will. Not worried about it. I'm gonna sand that down a little bit more when we're done. Then we go to paint, and then we're totally done with the hood and the engine portion, and then we move on to the trunk. Now in the meantime, I'd like to get this part. Shelly helped me a little bit with that, and she sanded where I wasn't going to worry about it, but that's all right. You know, of course she gets an A for effort, but I wasn't going to paint those anyway. They're too dirty, and I didn't want to go down that low. I might change my mind later, but in the meantime, I wasn't going to mess with it. What I might mess with, however, is the power steering booster disc. Yeah, that I might want to get. So the jury's still out on that. And of course, as I discussed yesterday, I'd like to get the radiator bracket, the metal in front of the radiator, the top of the radiator itself, but that's all going to have to be done with the high temperature paint designed for engines. All right, so that's it, and I'll get back with you later. I know what I forgot to show you earlier is when I finished the spray painting of the valve cover on the passenger side, I hadn't taken the tape off the exhaust emission control sticker. And it wasn't in very good shape to begin with. And there was a little bit of paint overspray, but it was almost impossible to read anyway. So for me, having the sticker there isn't because I necessarily want to read it, but it's in the spirit of showing that I tried to keep it intact to the best of my ability. On this side, this is the left wheel well. You can see I have already taped off the adjustment sticker that was over here. In addition to that, I have sanded almost down to bare metal the reservoir tank for the air compress for the vacuum for the headlamps. I sanded down the wheel hump, got down here behind the horn. That's actually that's harder than you think. Decided to leave that alone. And got the wheel well, or not the wheel well. Damn it! I keep misspeaking. The power assist of the brakes, the disc, the large disc behind the master cylinder. That I sanded. I'd like to paint that as well. Let's see what else is going on. In other semi-related news, but that's not black for the heck of it. That is actually where rust is eaten through. Those are holes. Those are holes in my reservoir kit, my overflow reservoir for my antifreeze. So I'm ordering a new kit, not because I really need the whole kit, but because I need the cap. The trunk, as we paint things black, it's showing up less well in low light situations, so that's okay. Shelly got all this. She did an excellent job of taping things off. She got around the edges on the outside of the weather stripping and on the inside of the quarter panels. Got it all in here, along the edge. Everything's done with that. The only thing we're still waiting on is the gosh darn trunk itself. That part still sticks out like a sore thumb. Ignition wire separators, they cracked. So I'm gonna, on the other side, this is the driver's side, the opposite side, the passenger side, they cracked. So I got those. When I get that all taken care of and I get all this painted in here, we'll get the air cover and everything put back together up here. We'll get the air filter back inside and we'll be done with the engine part, and then we can concentrate on the trunk, and when that's done, good riddance, the whole thing is done. I was gonna do a little bit more sanding tonight, but it's getting late, it's after midnight. So those are the whole engine now that it's been painted, and the ignition wires have all been oh, you've seen this already.
And here you can see later on April 17th that the top of the radiator and the support beam in front of it has been painted. Another view from the front of the car, the wheel well on the left-hand side, the driver's side, as well as the vacuum container or canister for the hidden headlights has been painted. The idea is consistency. We want everything that's black to be if one thing's been painted, we want to try to paint the other black surfaces as much as possible. This is the wheel well with the tag covered, a little out of focus, but you get the idea. This is the support beam on the passenger side between the battery and the headlight door. and that's the radiator right up there. We're just looking at the same thing, but all from different angles. And then this is the passenger side wheel well in front and behind the starter solenoid, and we're just getting an idea of the fact that it too has been painted. And then finally the support beam in front of the radiator on what I think is the driver's side.
Well, don't look now, but it's Bondo Day, and this could either be a huge success or a big old flop. Let's go have a look. I actually think since April 7th, some of the moisture got to it and started to brown it up again, so I actually had to re-sand and re-clean just to make sure it looked okay. Well, here we go. Here's a can of Bondo. Here's our hardener in the tube, and I'm gonna stir it with this stirring stick and put it on this butter cap tray. And here goes nothing. Well, 51 years old, and I've never Bondoed a day in my life, and it shows. Well, I tried my best, but I mean, really I did. But I don't know if I mixed it right. I think I lack a certain amount of patience. Look at that big old hole. I mean, I tried to fill it in. The little guys next to it filled in right away. But, it's pink. The cup or the mix is gray, and then the hardener is red. So I think their contrast colors, depending on how pinkish or reddish it is, tells you whether you're hardener heavy or hardener light. Yeah, look at that. I mean, it was basically like smearing frosting around a donut. Clearly I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my god, I didn't even see that. And then over here, it looks like a relief map of the Rocky Mountains. I mean, I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to sand all that down. Clearly I need some more practice. Well, I could be wrong, but my uneducated guess and my common sense tells me that the can of Bondo is grayish blue. The tube of hardener is a dark pink, or kind of almost an Indian red. The more you mix in hardener with the more you mix the hardener with the Bondo, the darker pink it's going to get. The less hardener you mix in, the lighter pink and closer to gray it is. I would not be at all surprised if the color of this spreading spatula is not an accident. They did not just arbitrarily paint this thing salmon pink. I lay you a bet you're supposed to mix the red hardener with the gray Bondo and come as close to this color as possible. This is a litmus swatch telling you when you've got a good mix. Because if you look at my leftover crumbs, they're not too far off from this thing. In fact, it tells you that maybe being slightly darker red, I put in too much hardener, which may explain why the first few times it dried up too quickly and I didn't fill the holes. I actually found, fourth or fifth time in, that I did better with the thinner metal spreader than I did with the wide salmon pink one. Okay, so let's come over here and see what we got. So I did eventually fill the holes. Can't say I necessarily did it exceptionally well, but I did fill the holes. Kind of looks like fondant hanging off of a cake right now. But the important thing is that all the holes have been filled in. And in fact, you can see exactly where the darker pink, which would have had more hardener, and the lighter pink, which would have had slightly less hardener, mixed with one another. So let's do a careful inspection. I don't know, is that a hole? Is that a hole? I do not know. What's that? Yeah, that's a hole. I missed it. So, okay, we're gonna have to sand this down and go back over it. If it's smooth, it's really easy to tell what were holes and what I missed. But in the areas where it's too blotchy, I can't tell what's a raised part of the Bondo that's casting a shadow versus what is a legitimate hole in the metal skin of the trunk. Like, I'm looking at that thing. That, I think, is a hole. Let's back up and see. There's a big old ugly pink, but we're going to eventually paint over that black. But I mean, we got to smooth it out and make sure we cover all the holes first. So I mean, we got our fair amount of work to do, but we're coming along.
And April 21st is a very busy day. So we're going to separate this out into 3 subsections: the Bondo, the engine, and the trunk. Let's get started with the Bondo, and you can see here that we have sanded down and smoothed this out. It looks a lot better than it did the week before or a couple days ago when it was laid down like a relief map of the Rocky Mountains. Again, we've covered the most major of holes and have definitely gotten the hang of it. Picture number 3, you can see a little bit of unevenness, but still far better than it was before. Picture 4 covered most of the holes. These might be holes up here, but they're minor. They're very minor. And again, a little bit over here, but that's not too bad.
Okay, well, luckily, Power Sander helped with this. You notice it no longer looks like a relief map of the Rocky Mountains. It's nice and smooth the way it's supposed to be. We can actually paint over this with respect. I have managed to regain my dignity, thanks in part to Shelley's help. Well, there was one little hole that got recreated, but you know what? We're just not going to worry about that. I think we can prime over that, and that will not be an issue. Still looks like little chunks of fondant, but trust me, it's way smoother than it used to be. Yeah, that we can live with. So, now guess what? Autofocus, come on board. Now we're ready to tape off and get the entire trunk primed and then painted. So we're getting there.
Now I'll go into greater detail in the video that follows, but this is what the rust primer and protector is designed to do. It turns black over the areas that have been sanded down to bare metal.
Okay, I laid down the primer and the rust protector, and you know what I forgot? It said after 3 coats it was supposed to turn black. I was expecting the old white-blue paint to turn black. The only thing that was supposed to turn black was what I sanded down to bare metal. Primer wasn't going to turn, or the Bondo wasn't going to turn black. The regular paint wasn't going to turn black, but this part turned black. Everything that I sanded to bare metal, this is a barrier now. That part didn't, but oh well. We wait 24 hours, or it said overnight, and then I'm free to take the final coat. And the part I've been waiting to do since I own the car, and get rid of this ghastly light blue. So how about this? Everything is done with the painting and the engine. Wheel well's done. The valve covers in blue, done. The power booster behind the master brake cylinder. The radiator. Top of the radiator and the radiator brackets. Done. The rail along the top, or along the passenger side. The wheel well on the driver's side. And everything along over here. Everything completely done. Now I'm going to put the, and everything on the front sill behind the headlamps, done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the air filter and air cover back on and let you see what the whole thing looks like in its final completed phase.
So that first video we just saw showed everything with the air filter cover off. Now it's back on, and you can get an idea of how the engine blue on the air filter cover and snorkel complements that on the valve covers. It looks very good. We got the blue under the ignition wires, and put them back in place. I don't know if I actually moved them out of their brackets or not. I don't remember now, but at least they're not painted blue. A little bit of blue bleed over here, but not the end of the world. Again, another view a little bit further out and clearer. Now this is the driver's side. Again, painted blue, a little washed out because the glare of the light is in front of me, but still looking good. This is the driver's side again. Nice crystal clear view. With the flash from the camera, you can definitely see that rich Ford blue that I was talking about. Looks very nice. There's the air filter cover complete with the decal, complementing all this excellently. Another view of it from slightly above. Have a good look at that. Here's an overall view of the car with everything completed for the most part, right? And from the front. Other side, this is what it looks like from the driver's side. And then coming around to the front, left front side of the car. Really nice. It was really important that I keep that tag protected to the best of my ability, and I did. I wasn't going to get the metal to the front side of the radiator overflow jug, but I did. I even got a little bit of the radiator below the cap, the entire top of the radiator. Very nice. The entire frame in front of the radiator. It's kind of a glossy black now. Looks a lot better. And right along the rail, very nice. The rail on the inside of the fender. I mean, all the light blue paint's gone. That's the important thing. The disc behind the master brake cylinder, painted black. The only thing I didn't get was any parts that were plastic. The box that contains the, I forget what that darn thing is called, the thermal unit that regulates radiator heat going into the car. That box is still dirty because we're not going to spray paint over plastic. Engine looks great, where I painted it Ford blue. Any parts I left alone were parts that I don't think were supposed to be painted. Right? I wasn't going to paint the metal under the distributor cap. I wasn't going to paint the metal that was just on the inside of the fan belts, because those aren't supposed to be Ford blue. And look, we got the new ignition wire separators. You can't really see the separators that well, but the last one all the way here on the right side closest to the firewall, the end piece that held it in place broke off, so this was constantly falling off. And same on the passenger side. You know, darn it, I should have gotten that while I was on the other side. This one closest to me kept falling off because this little plastic tab had broken off. So the important thing is you don't want your ignition wires falling loose and then falling against the engine. I wasn't going to get the iron of the top of the suspension parts. I already made that decision. I wasn't going to get this. This is rubber. I think that's rubber. Yeah, that's rubber. I wasn't going to get that, and I wasn't going to get the plastic casing that held the old air conditioning piping inputs. I only painted what looked like it needed painting. Let's back out, do one more slow pan, have a look. Yep, that's about as good as it gets. Pretty proud of myself and the way it turned out. Now we just need to get that trunk painted black, and it's going to be hitting. And this is the day before the trunk painting, the final prep. It looks kind of silly all wrapped up like that, but it's a very necessary thing. Make sure we don't get overspray on any other part of the car where we don't want it. So there's a good view of how it was taped down. Maybe could have done a better job. Maybe more professional materials are available out there, but we worked with what we had. There it is from the right hand side looking left, and you can see that I wasn't taking any chances with overspray. Clear past the rear window, about midway over the roof, past the quarter side window in the rear. Now a closer look at the trunk door itself where the painting is going to take place. And you can see that our pink Bondo is sanded and ready to go. And I removed the jack sticker so that I can paint over the space and then put the jack sticker back. Again, a piece of original sticker equipment that you want to save to preserve the stock look of the car, and a little bit of the same thing but closer up and from a slightly more oblique angle. I've covered the door lock mechanism as well as the bumper pads where the trunk closes down into the sill below. So we're ready to go, and next you see it'll be Sunday, April 22nd, and we're going to get spraying. That light blue paint will finally go away.
Well, here we go. This is the most important, noticeable part of the paint project that we're about to embark upon. After almost 2 years, I bought this car back on April 26th, 2016, and today is April 22nd. Timestamp at the bottom of the screen will be accurate, and we are about to finally get to the most obvious part that needs to be painted, the bluish-whitish trunk deck inside. Interior is going to be finally painted black. So I've shaken my can. I'm ready to go. Rather than showing before and after, I thought this was important enough that we're actually going to show during. So I'm going to put on my mask, don the old mask for safety. Oh dear. You know what? Time out. I don't like this. We've got things to take care of. Okay, here's what happened and why I had to stop rolling tape. I looked at the upper edge and realized that there was just enough of a slight gap in the plastic that had I sprayed up and over, a glancing blow of a spray paint would have hit the top of the trunk deck, or the front lip of the trunk deck where the LTD with the trunk lock was. And it would have ruined the already existing paint, or risked ruining it. So I think we're ready now. Let me grab my paint. Custom fill is what I'm supposed to be using. Into this stuff at all. Wow. Oh dear, this isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. Something isn't right. But of course, this can came with no directions on how to spray. Clearly something isn't right. We may have to use the flat black that I painted the bumper with back in February and March as a base coat before putting this on. Something's not correct. I think I know what the problem was. The ultimate problem was it's been too many months since I went to the paint store and I bought so many products I don't remember what was for what. This was custom fill, pitch black. I don't think this was supposed to be for the trunk. I think this was supposed to be what I sprayed on the trunk floor. after sanding down a bare metal, I was supposed to put the rust protector on, then this as a base coat, and then I was going to paint or spray that rubberized stuff over the front of it. Definitely think I did it wrong. This was not what I was supposed to do. This is a custom fill pitch black. This is what I was supposed to use. This is a duplicolor automotive refinish enamel. This is ultimately what I was supposed to be doing this with. What I have determined is this should coat and take care of everything correctly. So now that I think I finally have the right stuff, now I think I can paint and it's going to cover it correctly. And this isn't any better. I think that coating that I put on totally ruined it and was way too slick. But everything that's glossy from the rust protector on the old paint isn't covering correctly. I hope I'm not going to wind up using up an entire can of paint just to cover this. I'm wondering if what I did yesterday was a huge mistake. I was only supposed to hit the parts that were bare metal. But instead, unbeknownst to me, I tried to cover the whole thing. I think, again, forgetting what the original intent for the product was. The lesson learned, if you're going to use a paint product, know what you're using it for and read the directions. Well, I think I'm starting to gain the upper hand on this. Yeah. The areas where I didn't spray the clear coat rust protector are covering right away. I should have never put that stuff on there. Crap, it's my own damn fault. It's bubbling up. I sprayed too much there. In a situation where it starts to bubble, you just leave it alone and let it dry up. We finally gained the upper hand and got it black. Now the only question is, we may need to lay down a second layer. I see orange peel in areas that didn't quite get hit well enough. Right. So as a first coat, you might need to go over this again in the next 3 hours or maybe tomorrow, but I think that's pretty good. Trunk finally is black. Took a little bit of doing, but we got it. Trunk finished. Let's have a look. Now, it's supposed to be glossy. Some parts kind of got muffed up. Look at this. I got too close trying to spray, finish things up, and it got a little messy. Am I ultra concerned about that? At this point, I'm more concerned about it being black and not being blue than I am about that. Could I have done a better job? Oh, sure, I bet I could have. Maybe this will dry up and go away tomorrow. Maybe not. Parts might need a recoat. That's the long and the short of it for now.
So the videos were comprehensive, but let's just go through the 5 remaining pictures of the day. Here, number 1, you can see the inside of the trunk door completed. Nice and glossy, even reflecting the trees on the outside. From a different angle, we got a little bit of bubbling over here. Maybe I oversprayed in that area, but we could always sand that down or put a second coat on if need be. Third picture over here, same thing, but from the opposite side. You can see here a little bit of bubbling and dripping. Nothing I'm too worried about. And there it is from here. And there's Shelly, who is helping me out. Thank you to her. Another view, and I believe that is it.
Okay, we're ready for the final phase now, or I should say next to final phase, technicality there. Now that the trunk is suitably cleaned up, I want to get what would be the equivalent of the grill surface, but in the back, behind the trunk. We're going to treat it the same way, and I'll flip the camera around and show you what I mean. Okay, so, like the grill surface, we have these faded waffle squares. We're going to do just like we did on the front. We're going to paint the small inside ones black with the same flat black that we used on the grill back in February and March. And we're going to, well, this time we're not going to paint the stanchion bars or the crossbars silver, or with the silver paint, because it's not plastic with white plastic with silver tape over it. It is actual metal, and I want to preserve it as is. A quick review of the trunk. I messed up a portion, sanded it down, and tried to go back over it. And you can see what's happening is I started getting checking. And you can actually see my scratch marks from my sanding. It was a desperation effort on my part to try to make it better. We got some bubbling there. And at this point, the more I mess with it, the worse. I'm afraid the worse I'm gonna make it. So I'm just gonna let sleeping dogs lie and leave well enough alone. Now after we finish this, there's only one more area we need to finish, and that is, remember back in March when I did the black over silver on the nose? Well, I'm gonna have to do the same thing over here. Those aren't completed. It's still silver. And you'll see from my March 31st coverage that the tops still need to be painted black. So aside from that, everything else is pretty much ready to go. So let me just paint this and I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. Okay, there you go, completed and nice and black, darker. But when we take the tape off after it dries up, you'll see the contrast. The Ford logo is covered up as well. We didn't want to get paint on it. And then the whole area will finally look better. That leaves just one other thing up front, and then we're done. The plastic can come off the rest of the car because pretty soon I have to wash it before we leave.
Upon taking off the tarp, I saw we had some additional problems I wasn't counting on. Overspray on top of the trunk.
Okay, something I'm not really happy about, but I don't know how I could have prevented it. We had plastic over it. There was literally a slight film of paint overspray where that landed on the back of the trunk lid, even though I had this all covered off. And when I feel the surface, it feels kind of a little rough. Not overly so, but you can tell it's paint overspray. And we're looking straight down it, and I don't know how that happened. Because really, I thought I had all that covered up with plastic. So I'm gonna go over it with a detailer spray and hope it comes off. And if it doesn't, I'm gonna have to try a pre-wax paint cleaner or oxidized remover. Wow, you can really see it on the left side looking to the right. Egads, that's all overspray. And the reason it is, and not dirt, I'm gonna rub real hard. And look at my finger. Here, let me get in this light. That's paint. But it's not like real hard overspray. It's kind of ashy. It has the consistency of like charcoal briquettes. You really can't see it really well, but it comes right off, sort of. But it's concerning because this plastic mesh was over it and should have taken care of it. And yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed in that. Did the best I could, but I think it'll come off.
And let's quickly review photos from the video that we just looked at. Here it is, the dusty charcoal-like ashy overspray. And yet this strange demarcation, this strange sharp line where there's a cutoff where nothing hit it and overspray did hit. I wonder what was there, maybe the end of the tape, or maybe the point where the plastic was tight enough that the overspray, the paint couldn't get under there. I wouldn't even say it was overspray. I would say it's more dust that dried up charcoalish, not hard and on the paint, thank goodness. A few more pictures from different angles and you can see I probably shouldn't have run my finger over it, risk scratching the paint, but it's not like it's a $10,000 paint job, so I wasn't too concerned about it. Another picture there from the left, you can see in low angle artificial light it showed up worse than it would otherwise.
Well, much better. I think I dodged a bullet on that one. I was really afraid that paint was gonna stick. And it appears to not have. So again, I got very lucky. Whew. Thank goodness for that.
Well, that concludes the LTD trunk and engine painting project prior to the Cool April Nights car show in Reading. Now, as I said, only the other half of the grill nose needed to be painted, and that took place the following month in May 2018. Next video, I'll try to share some of the Reading car show. Until then, I'm John O'Flaherty, the B3 Burner, and thank you for watching. See you next time.